Part 24. I made a fortune by raiding houses in ancient times. Author, Half-Life Calligraphy. Chapter 231. Chapter 231 Breaking into the boudoir at night. Even though her father's expression was normal, Ling Chu still couldn't help but feel suspicious. If she was the child of her father and another woman, it is not surprising that Mrs. Dong hates her. But her father said that she and her eldest brother were twins. Once the seeds of doubt are planted, they are difficult to eradicate. There are twins who look different in this world. Ling Chu didn't think it was strange at first, but now he felt it was a bit of a coincidence. Also, the mudslide that occurred when the original owner was on his way back to Beijing from Xianqing Temple was not necessarily an accident. Although she was lucky enough not to die at that time, a group of masked men appeared out of nowhere and wanted to kill her. She never found out the person behind it. There is also someone who robbed her of her merit and luck, but I don't know who they are. Perhaps she should check to see if there was anything unusual when her mother gave birth to her and her eldest brother. I can't find out these things at the moment, so I'd better leave Ling Mansion first and find a way to find out later. Sister Chu, although your mother is in charge of the middle feed, there will inevitably be oversights. Perhaps the ingredients used in the soup stewed by the cook are not fresh and the taste has gone bad, which is why you misunderstood your mother. Dad, I'm not a 3-year-old child. Ling Chu was halfway through his words when his interest suddenly waned. Seeing Lu Xiangju come in, he turned around and asked her, "Have everything been packed?" "Go back, girl, everything is packed." Ling Chu didn't have many things, except for some changes of clothes, and the only things she wanted to take away were her health-preserving medicines. "Now that we've packed up, let's go." She originally planned to move to Kintai Street tomorrow, but now she changed her mind and moved there now while it was still early in the day and there was no curfew. Mrs. Tai's face was grave. "Sister Chu, do you really want to move away?" "Move? Move to where?" Ling Zone frowned. He still didn't know what happened. Ling Chu paused and turned around. "Dad, I have established a female household, and I will move out now. From now on, I will leave this house to you. Consider it my duty to fulfill my filial piety to you." "Nonsense, you are a girl's family, why should you establish a female household?" Ling Mao also had a dissatisfied look on his face. "Sister Chu, don't be ridiculous. How do you, a girl, make a living out there?" Faced with the anger and dissatisfaction of the two people, Ling Chu has always been calm. If you have no expectations for them, there will be no disappointment. "Grandpa, Dad, I'm not fooling around. I haven't had a single family member around me for so many years, so I can't live well in Suankigwan. If I move outside, I can live on my own just as well." Ling Zone was silent, feeling guilty for his eldest daughter's past negligence. It could be seen that she was so stubborn now, and he couldn't bear his anger. Ling Mao knew that his eldest granddaughter was resentful of being fostered in a Taoist temple and was disheartened by the fact that her mother had been drugged. If the Ling family had not declined, he wouldn't care whether the granddaughter wanted to return to the Taoist temple or settle down and move away. But now, he disagrees. When he left the house today, facing his old relatives and former colleagues, he felt deeply the indifference of human nature. He cannot allow the Ling mansion to decline. He wants to restore its past glory, and the marriages of his granddaughters will be his bargaining chip. "Ms. Dong, since you can't manage the middle feed well and have made mistakes, then let the middle feed be jointly managed by the Yang family and the Yu family." Ling. After punishing his daughter-in-law, Mao said to his eldest son, "You are responsible for investigating the chicken soup matter. If there are any servants with evil intentions, they will be kicked out of the house." Ling Chu listened quietly, without commenting on this, only twitching the corners of his lips sarcastically, turned around and left. Ling Mao's face was dark. He didn't expect that he had already punished her and the granddaughter still had to leave. "Sister Chu, your mother no longer has a middle school feeder, what else do you have to be dissatisfied with?" Can you not be so willful? Ling Zong really had a headache for his daughter. Dad, my household registration documents have been completed. From now on, you can just think that I still live in the Taoist temple. Ling Chu was about to leave, but suddenly stopped. Dad, my master said that my fate and body they are not suitable for marriage, and I will never get married. Ling Chu reminded him, but this time he didn't stay any longer, turned around and left with Lu Xiangju. With a dark face, Ling Mao winked at the eldest son and signaled him to stop his daughter. But he was stopped by the madam. Even though Mrs. Tai wanted to use Ling Chu's marriage to seek benefits, the matter at the Zhao Qiagong's mansion had not yet been resolved, and she was worried about causing the dissatisfaction of Zhao Qiagong and his wife. It would be better to let the dead girl leave first, and then ask the son and daughter-in-law to take her back after the matter is over. As for what Ling Chu said, she would never get married, and no one took it to heart. Marriage is the order of the parents and the matchmaker. They will not let her marry if she wants to. Ling Mao was secretly thinking about which family he would give his eldest granddaughter to and which family would get more benefits. Ms. Dong was so angry that her liver ached when she was deprived of the management rights of the middle feeder, but she didn't say anything and returned to the courtyard with a dark face. But he called the maid who was serving him and gave him instructions in a low voice. That little was able to get household registration so quickly because he must have hooked up with Commander Ning. Humph, she will never allow her to climb a high branch. She will only be able to look up at her Yao Yao in the dust for the rest of her life. Ling Chu went back to the yard to pick up his things, and went directly out of the house to the nearest horse and carriage dealership without stopping. Hire a carriage and go straight to Kintai Street. Arrived at the newly bought house before the curfew. Xiaoji was surprised and happy to see them coming. Fortunately, I bought a lot of things during the day. The two maids worked together to clean the bedroom, put down the newly bought sheets and quilts, and hung up the tent. Ling Chu finished washing and they happened to tidy up. It's getting late. I don't have to stay up late here. You go down and tidy up your house. If you do other things, get up and get busy tomorrow morning. Yes, girl. After the two maids exited, Ling Chu closed the doors and windows and went to sleep. While sleeping soundly at night, Ling Chu was suddenly woken up by the system's alarm. Ding! Fire detected, host please pay attention to safety. Ling Chu was startled and immediately turned over and sat up. When I turned on the system, I saw a fire burning in the northwest corner. Ling Chu's expression changed, and he hurriedly got out of bed without thinking too much. I was about to put on my embroidered shoes, but in my hurry, I stumbled and my body tilted to the side. It was about to fall to the ground. Suddenly the bedroom door was kicked open with a bang. Before Ling Chu could even turn his head to take a look, he bumped into a hard chest. Surprised, he suddenly raised his head and met a pair of obsidian-like sword eyes. Master Ning. Ling Chu's eyes widened. Could she be dreaming? She just moved into a new house, and it was enough for her to walk away on the first night. Why did she dream that Master Ning broke into her boudoir? Being stared at so straightly by Ling Chu, Ning Chui's nervous heart suddenly relaxed. That's when I realized something was wrong. Seeing that the person in front of him was only wearing a middle coat, he quickly released his hands holding her shoulders, quickly turned around and walked out. I'll wait for you outside. Thanks to 0230530115415940712976. Supported by monthly votes from book friends such as Yu Xiaoyareo,Yway0310, and Fei Wenli. Thanks to 201811281000506706, neither cat nor mouse can play, asterisk carrot. Carrot carrot o carrot asterisk, King Shawan Zwang, UN1, Chen, Zheng, Kixi Yao, 2023-032-1629. C. Yangliuan, 202110221207411050, Pen Yongfang, Wu Nama, China Fuse, A. Purple Leaf, 854-729, Writing to the Future, Taurus Walking Free, Prose. BA, Why We Grow Old, 20230306195833531, Panax Noto Ginseng. DB, Chen Rong 202306016216582. 2023053011154159407129776, Silver Star, Sesame Blossom 531, XXC, 2023-032-1623. CE, Qingshuang Chuang, 20230907495021, 201710102225365550 and other book friends recommend votes to support. End of this chapter. I made a fortune by raiding houses in ancient times. Author, Half-Life Calligraphy. Chapter 232. Hearing Ning Chui's cold words, Ling Chu came back to his senses instantly. She is not dreaming. Glancing at the fire displayed in the system, Ling Chu had no time to think about why Ning Chui suddenly appeared in her boudoir. She hurriedly put on her embroidered shoes, put on her outer clothes and walked out. Outside the door, Ning Chui was looking at the direction of the fire with his hands behind his back. Hearing the movement, he subconsciously turned around. Seeing that she had put on her clothes, she breathed a sigh of relief. Coughing slightly, Ning Chui said awkwardly, "I was so abrupt just now in a hurry." I could hear the embarrassment in his words, and Ling Chu actually didn't take what happened just now to heart. After all, she was not a pure ancient. Although she was wearing a middle coat, she was tightly wrapped from the neck down, and she didn't reveal anything that shouldn't be exposed. Moreover, if Ning Chui hadn't appeared in time to help her, she would have fallen just now. It's just that it's not easy to explain this matter. Ling Chu could only shake his head as if nothing happened. "It doesn't matter, I know you are just worried that something will happen to me." Although she didn't know how the house suddenly caught fire at night when it was fine, she was originally quite surprised by Ning Chui's appearance, but she suddenly thought of the Jinyai Way all over Kyoto and felt relieved. Xiaoji and Lu Xiangju heard the noise and hurried over. Seeing Ling Chu frowning as he looked at the place where the fire broke out, Ning Chui said softly, "Don't worry, I've already sent someone to put out the fire." Ling Chu nodded and walked towards the direction of the fire, asking, "When did you come, sir? Did you find anything unusual?" Ning Chui followed her and shook his head. "I just finished doing something and passed by the area on the way back home. I found that there was water here, so I came to take a look. I have to ask Wei Feng and the others if they have found anything. There have been a lot of cases recently, and Ning Chui is also very busy." After getting off duty at Jinyi Guard Station, he originally planned to go back home, but he didn't know what happened to him, so he walked towards Kintai Street. When I was almost there, I remembered that the house had been sold to Ling Chu. Just as he was about to turn back, he accidentally saw a fire coming from this direction. He had a bad premonition at that time. Hurrying on horseback, I found that the house on fire was the house sold to Ling Chu. Immediately ordered Wei Feng to take people to put out the fire. Unexpectedly, I found a carriage parked in the front yard. He recognized it as Ling Chu's carriage at a glance. Ning Chui didn't expect that she would move into this house so quickly. He was worried that something might happen to her, so he broke into her boudoir without having time to think about it. Ning Chui pinched her fingers secretly, and suddenly realized that she seemed to be a little too worried about her safety without even realizing it. Even his calm self-possession would throw him into disarray when he learned that she was in danger. Ning Chui frowned deeply and didn't understand why she had these changes. Under the night, he was worried about the fire again. Ling Chu walked in a hurry and didn't notice anything unusual about Ning Chui. Hurrying to the place where the fire broke out, Wei Feng was leading several Jinyi guards to put out the fire. Seeing them coming, Wei Feng hurried over, with worry on his face. "Sir, the wind direction has changed, and the wind is getting stronger. We don't have many people, and the fire may burn to the next door." Ning Chui glanced at the location of the fire and told Wei Feng in a cold voice, "Send someone to the 5 cities military and horse division quickly to mobilize a team of people." "Yes." Wei Feng was about to leave, but Ling Chu shook his head and said, "No need, I'm afraid it's too late to transfer people, so let me do it." Ling Chu smelled the smell of kerosene in the wind. Wei Feng and the others were even more worried because they smelled the fire oil and knew that the fire was not an accident but someone started the fire. What he was confused about was, did Miss Ling ask her to come? Those grown men couldn't put out the fire, let alone a weak woman like her. Wei Feng knew that Ling Chu had the means to protect herself, but he didn't know how she would put out the fire. Could it be that the big shovel and the small hammer were used to put out the fire? Of course, Ling Chu didn't summon a shovel or a hammer, but just when she was about to take action, a strong wind blew by, causing sparks to fall on the wall of the nearby house. I saw a burst of fire suddenly bursting into flames. Ning Chui and the others' expressions froze. The fire was burning so fast, and it was obvious that the other side was also doused with fire oil. Wei Feng looked at Ning Chui with a solemn expression, and was about to ask if he was going to mobilize the troops from the 5 cities. Ling Chu quickly took out a piece of talisman paper and flicked it into the wind. "The talisman will burn spontaneously without fire. Hold the talisman in his left hand and perform the secret formula in his right hand." Ling Chu quickly recited the incantation in conjunction with the Tiangang steps under his feet. 5 emperors and 5 dragons descend the light and move the wind. They spread the moisture widely and assist the Thunder Lord. From all over the world, water is the most important. The gods command you, and Chang Chuan obeys. Anyone who dares to disobey will not be tolerated by the Thunder Axe. Be as urgent as the law. As soon as the spell fell, there was a sudden thunder in the night sky. Immediately afterwards, it was as if a hole had been torn open in the sky, and heavy rain poured down from above. Wei Feng and the others stared at the sky with their mouths open, and they could almost fit a goose egg into their mouths. It was only after being poured by the rain that I came back to my senses. Just as he was about to find a place to take shelter from the rain, he found that they were standing behind Miss Ling. To their surprise, there was no rain where Ning Chui and Ling Chu were standing. They all rushed behind Ning Chui, and Wei Fengke secretly cursed in his heart. The adults were really not funny enough. He secretly ran over to take shelter from the rain without calling them. They are subordinates who have been with them for many years. Naturally, Ning Chui knows exactly what they are thinking. Although he didn't say anything, the eyes he stared at Wei Feng and the others were full of disgust. Miss Ling has been studying Taoism with Master Xianyi since she was a child, and her ability to control wind and rain is certainly not bad. Just now, she acted like a country bumpkin who has never seen the world, which really embarrassed the Jin Yiwei. The corners of Wei Feng's mouth twitched. The expressions of embarrassment could not be concealed. Although they knew that Ling Chu was good at fortune-telling, they really didn't expect that she could pray for rain. Ling Chu didn't notice the quarrel between Ning Chui and the others. He felt relieved when he saw the fire in front of him quickly extinguished under the water of the rain. If he hadn't learned Taoism from Master Xianyi, today's fire would probably have been unstoppable. It doesn't matter if her own house is burned down, but she will feel uneasy if others are harmed. Just when the fire was extinguished, there was suddenly a burst of noisy footsteps outside the courtyard wall, accompanied by curses. "Let's go and ask whose house this is. There was a flood in the middle of the night. I ran all the way here and almost died. It's really good luck when we walk through the water in the middle of the night, we can still encounter heavy rain. My shoes were all gone, and I don't know if anyone was injured in the fire." Ling Chu frowned and was about to go out and take a look. Ning Chui stopped her. The group of belated arrivals outside were the people from the Wuchen Army and Horses Division. Ning Chui, I heard the voice of one of them as the commander CAO. Ning Chui I was worried that Ling Chu would be embarrassed by them, so he planned to ask Wei Feng to go out and deal with it. But Ling Chu refused. She can't rely on others to help her with everything. Even if Ning Chui I can help her for a while, he can't help her forever. Please vote. Please vote. Please vote. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I made a fortune by raiding houses in ancient times. Author, Half-Life Calligraphy. Chapter 233. Seeing that Ling Chu insisted on going out to face the people of the 5 cities military and horse division, Ning Chui I didn't know what to say. People outside knocked on the door, and Ling Chu led Xiaji to the door. Ning Chui I did not follow, but led Wei Feng and the others away from the other side of the courtyard wall. Although he brought people to put out the fire, if people saw him in Ling Chu's house, I don't know what rumors would spread. After the door opened, the person leading outside was none other than Cao Hongzin, the commander of the Zikan Army and Horses Division. Seeing Ling Chu coming out with 2 maids, the people outside were stunned. Cao Hongzin frowned even more. Where is your master? Sir, this is my house. Cao Hongzin's eyes glanced up and down in surprise. He was really surprised that such a little girl lived in such a big house. What's going on in your house? Why did the water suddenly break out in the middle of the night? Can you afford it if it causes a fire in someone else's house? Cao Hongzin has been having a hard time recently because of family matters. After patrolling a large circle at night, the people from the 5 cities soldiers and horses division were looking for a place to rest. Unexpectedly, they suddenly saw the water flowing on Kintai Street and hurried over. Unexpectedly, as soon as I ran nearby, I was hit by a sudden heavy rain and was completely chilled. Even though the fire was extinguished by the rain and they didn't need to do anything, he and his men ran so far and were caught in the heavy rain. It was inevitable that everyone felt resentful. Facing their anger, Ling Chu couldn't get angry. These people came all the way to work as firefighters for her. Although they didn't help, they had good intentions after all. I wanted to let the summer solstice give me some hard work, but suddenly I heard a sound of horseshoe running towards the side. Looking up subconsciously, Ling Chu raised his eyebrows in surprise. The person who came turned out to be Ning Chui, followed by Wei Feng and several other Jinyi guards. Didn't he leave with someone? Why did he suddenly appear again? Seeing Ning Chui, not only Ling Chu was surprised, Cao Hongzin was even more surprised. He hurriedly put up a smile and stepped forward to greet him. I've met Mr. Ning before. How come you're here so late? Ning Chui did not dismount, but just sat on the horse and said coldly, I just saw a fire here, come and take a look. Mr. Cao, what can you find out and why did you get lost? Cao Hongzin cried out in his heart, why did he suddenly encounter this murderous god? It's just an encounter. When will the Jinyi Wei ask about their 5 cities soldiers and horses division? He was slandering in his heart, but Cao Hongzin did not dare to show any clues on his face. He could only apologize and said, Sir, I just came here, and I am asking about the reason for the leak. Afraid that Ning Chui might ask something else and he wouldn't be able to answer it, he quickly turned his head and shouted at Ling Chu who was behind him, I didn't see that the master is waiting, why don't you come over quickly and answer me? Ling Chu glanced at him and said nothing. He walked over to Ning Chui and greeted him, I've met you, sir. Ning Chui lowered her eyes, then dismounted her horse and extended her hand to help her, Miss Ling, you don't need to be polite. Is it your house that is in trouble? Ling Chu saw that he was asking a serious question, so he could only nod his head seriously, exactly. Do you know the cause of water leakage? I haven't looked carefully, but I smelled the smell of kerosene at the place where the fire started. If I didn't guess, someone should have set the fire deliberately. Cao Hungzin on the side quietly looked back and forth between Ning Chui and Ling Chu in surprise. Why didn't he know that this cold-faced murderer had such a gentle side? What is the identity of this Miss Ling? Cao Hungzin was muttering in his heart, but when he heard Ling Chu's words, his heart trembled. Originally he thought the water was caused by someone accidentally knocking over a candle, but he didn't expect that someone deliberately set the fire on fire. Lord Cao, there are still people under the Emperor's feet who dare to deliberately set fire. You, the army commander of the 5 cities, must search carefully to see who is so bold. In case the perpetrator burns more than one family, and the Emperor starts questioning him, you, the 5-city army commander, have an unshirkable responsibility. Cao Hungzin reached out and wiped the cold sweat from his forehead. Don't worry, sir, my subordinates will search carefully. He turned around and shouted angrily at the subordinates beside him, what are you doing standing there in such a daze? Go check it out quickly. With Ning Chui watching from the side, the people from the 5 cities military and horse division did not dare to have any objections and quickly searched around the burning courtyard wall carefully. Ning Chui only glanced at it and then withdrew his gaze. Seeing Cao Hungzin still waiting respectfully aside, he ignored him. Instead, he asked Ling Chu, Miss Ling, when will Master Xianyi return to the capital? The Emperor has been thinking about inviting him to the palace to preach. Master has always disliked the restraints of the world. No one knows where the old man is wandering around at the moment. I am also looking forward to his return to Beijing. Originally, Ning Chui didn't want people to misunderstand, so she took Wei Feng and the others over the wall and left. Ling Chu was still wondering why he left and came back so suddenly, but now she heard him specifically mention her master, and she understood his intention. He was worried that Commander Cao would embarrass her, so he specifically pointed out her identity. Cao Hungzin was indeed surprised, so Miss Ling is a disciple of Master Xianyi. Ning Chui had specifically pointed out her identity, and Ling Chu did not deny it. He nodded and said, exactly. Most people in the court knew that the Emperor had always wanted to invite Master Xianyi to be the national advisor, and Cao Hungzin's attitude towards Ling Chu suddenly changed. He was impatient before, but now he has a smile on his face. It turns out that he is a disciple of Master Xianyi. No wonder Miss Ling can afford to live in such a big house. Ling Chu glanced at Ning Chui apologetically. She could afford to live in such a big house not because of her master, but because of his blessing. It's just that she couldn't say this clearly to Commander Cao, lest it get out and cause unnecessary trouble to Mr. Ning. What Ling Chu didn't expect was that Cao Hungzin glanced at Ning Chui and then asked her cautiously, Miss Ling, can I ask you a favor? Seeing that Ning Chui and Ling Chu were both looking towards him, Cao Hungzin smiled and said bravely, that's right, I heard that if something is missing, I can use hexagram to find it. I lost some things at home a few days ago and I can't find them. I wonder if I can ask Miss Ling to help me take a look. It turned out that he was looking for something to tell fortunes from her, but Ling Chu didn't refuse. It's okay, but as for whether I can find it, I won't know until I go see it. Although Ling Chu didn't guarantee that he would definitely find it, Cao Hungzin wasn't upset either. I thought to myself that a disciple of Master Xianyi should be somewhat capable. Ning Chui just listened quietly. Cao Hungzin was the commander of the army and horse department in Zikan. It would be a good thing if Ling Chu could make friends with him. If she helps Cao command the envoy, he will definitely instruct the people of the 5 cities military and horse division to pay more attention to the safety near her house, which will also provide an extra layer of protection. Sir, we found an arrowhead. The people from the 5 cities military and horse division searched around the place where the fire broke out. Although they smelled the smell of kerosene, they found no evidence except for a burned arrowhead. Thanks to WX Yangmai, Prajna Lotus Heart, 2023-011-1711. AE and other book friends for their monthly support. Thanks to 0211022120741050, Can't Think of Ming, A. Z, 201703181914308305, Zheng, Yangliuan, UN1, Huiy.ea, Daoao. EB, 854-729, Free Roaming Taurus, CHLWCH, Kingshit Shuang, 1402121840211428, Kixi Yao, Neither cat nor mouse can play, China Fuse, Why Do You Grow Old, Lie Down When You Are Full, The Wind of the Blue Planet, Pick Up the Pen to Predict the Future, The Heartbeat on the Left, 2023-032-1629. CE, 202303061958333531, 20230601621658, Ixixi, Zhongshui 987, Pros. BA 20230907495021. Recommendation votes from book friends such as 20230601621658, Chen, Panax Nodo Ginseng, DB, etc. Thanks to Hungziu and the book friends who support Hungziu. I made a fortune by raiding houses in ancient times. Author, Half-Life Calligraphy. Chapter 234. With no evidence found, Ling Chu and Ning Chui were already mentally prepared. After discovering the water leakage, Wei Feng and others arrived first, but they did not find any clues when putting out the fire. The person who did it was very cautious. After pouring the fire oil, nothing was left behind. The arrow must have been shot from a distance to ignite the fire. The nock of the arrow was burned away, leaving only this ordinary arrow. Cao Hungzin looked very unhappy. Although he took the arrowhead to check, there was nothing special about the arrowhead, so it would be difficult to find any results. There was such a big noise at night that all the people nearby woke up. Close to Ling Chu's house was Uncle Chenji's house. Their housekeeper came with his servants to check it out, and found out that his courtyard wall had also been doused with kerosene and one of the walls was burned. Although he was dissatisfied in his heart, seeing that Commander Cao and Lord Ning were present, he did not dare to say anything to Ling Chu. He only scolded the person behind the scenes. Although Cao Hungzin left with his people, he left a few people to patrol nearby to prevent the bad guys from coming back again. The Chenji mansion also sent a few guards to patrol the surrounding area. Ning Chui didn't want to stay any longer, so she said a few words about safety and left with Wei Feng and the others. But he secretly left 2 guards to guard Ling Chu's house. Both Commander Cao and Uncle Chenji left guards behind. Ling Chu was not worried that the people behind him would come back, so he went back with his 2 maids, locked the door and went to sleep. The next day, Ling Chu took Xiaji and went straight to Yaxing. The only 2 maids around her were not enough, so she had to hire more people. In the tooth shop, I picked out some good-looking ones and bought them. As soon as he went out, a girl wearing patches and patches suddenly rushed towards Ling Chu, plopped down and knelt down in front of her. "Girl, please do me a favor, please buy me. I can cook, wash, and clean." As if she was afraid that Ling Chu would refuse, the girl begged and kowtowed. Ling Chu hadn't spoken yet, but the lady who sent her out said impatiently, "Go, go, why is it you again? Leave quickly, otherwise don't blame me for having someone drive you away." The girl didn't leave, but kept begging, "Girl, my mother is about to die of illness. Please buy me. It only costs 50 taels. I will repay you as an ox or a horse in the future." It turned out that she had to sell herself to save her mother, but she had just bought all the servants she needed at Yaxing, and did not plan to buy one more. Ling Chu saw that her forehead was red and swollen, and her heart softened, and she said to Xiaji, "Give her 5 taels to get some medicine." As soon as he finished speaking, Yapo shook his head and said, "Girl, I can't do it, I can't do it." Ling Chu looked at her in confusion. Perhaps he saw that Ling Chu had bought someone in Yahang just now. Yahang hesitated for a while, then took a careful look around, and then whispered to Ling Chu. "Miss Ling, this little girl's father likes to gamble and lost all the family's money. She accidentally fell to death after getting drunk a few days ago. It was only after his death that the little girl's family found out that he had borrowed usury money from Duke Zhao's government during his lifetime, and now he owed several hundred taels of money at interest. The little girl's family is now extremely poor and there is no way she can get the money to pay back the debt, so she has to sell herself. If you buy her back, her mother will not come to your house every day to ask for money. This girl has a filial heart and will definitely not watch her mother being forced into debt, and then she won't be able to ask for your help. Usury money is a bottomless pit, and it's very dangerous to get involved in it." Ling Chu's heart moved. She was worried about how to get back the concubinage documents from Duke Zhao's mansion. This might be a good opportunity. In front of Yapo, Ling Chu didn't say anything. After thanking her, he left with the others. After walking some distance and seeing that Yapo had returned, he asked Xiaoji to bring the girl over. Seeing Ling Chu, the girl was overjoyed, knelt down and kowtowed. After Ling Chu asked Xiaoji to help her up, he didn't take any detours and asked directly, "Your father borrowed usury from the Duke of Zhao. Which Zhao family it is from?" Zhou Bankan didn't know why the girl in front of him asked about usury, and felt uneasy. But he didn't dare to hide it. It was the Duke of Zhao who issued the usury, but it was not the Duke of Zhao, but the Duke's wife Guo. "Are you sure you are MRS Zhao Qiagong?" Zhou Bankan nodded bitterly. "I'm sure the person who came to my house to ask for money was the stewardess of MRS Zhao Qiagong. When she saw that my family couldn't come up with the money to repay the debt, she asked my mother to sell me to a brothel. My mother disagreed, and the nanny also said that she was the nanny next to MRS Zhao Qiagong and knew many wealthy people. You can introduce me to those rich families as a concubine. I can pay off the money by asking for more gifts." It's just that Zhou Bankan's mother felt that the nanny was not a good person, and the person she introduced might not necessarily be a good family. She didn't want her daughter to become a concubine and be teased by the main wife. "Girl, my father actually regrets it. He was lured into gambling after borrowing loan sharks. He found out that it was a bottomless pit. He has quit gambling and is working hard to make money to pay off his debts. My father originally sold a piece of jade pendant handed down from his ancestors, and my mother also sold her last dowry, but there was still a shortfall of 80 taels. I originally planned to borrow it from relatives, and when I had collected enough, I would return it to MRS Zhao Qiagong together. I just didn't expect that before I could pay back the money, my father would leave." After Zhou Bankan's father died, her mother fell ill again. In order to save money and pay off debts, her mother had her father buried hastily, and even when she was sick, she did not dare to see a doctor to buy medicine. Zhou Bankan had no choice but to sell himself. Originally, she wanted to sell herself in a dental shop, but Yapo somehow found out about her family. She was worried that her family would be affected if she bought her. She also thought her selling price of 50 taels was too high, so she was unwilling to do so. "Buy her." Ling Chu asked Xiaoji to buy Zhou Bankan with 100 taels. 50 taels are your worth. The other 50 taels should be regarded as loan to you by me. They will be deducted from your monthly silver in the future. In addition, the other 50 taels will be deducted from your monthly silver. Are you willing to give me the IOU for your loan shark? Zhou Bankan was overjoyed and nodded in agreement. Ling Chu took Zhou Bankan to her home. Originally, Zhou Bankan's mother was thought to be reluctant to sell her daughter, but her mother agreed in order to pay off the debt and support her two young sons. After receiving the deed of sale, giving the bank note, and taking the usury note, Ling Chu returned home. Unexpectedly, as soon as we entered the door, the commander of the Zikan Army and Horses Department came to the door. As soon as they met, Cao Hongzhen couldn't wait to ask, "Miss Ling, I wonder if you have time now." Ling Chu didn't expect him to be so eager, and couldn't help being curious. "A very valuable item was lost at your home. Did the official investigate it?" Cao Hongzhen hesitated for a moment before shaking his head and said, "There is no report." "You lost something and didn't report it to the official?" Seeing Ling Chu's surprise, Cao Hongzhen couldn't help but smile bitterly. "To be honest, what was lost was my daughter's betrothal gift. The reason why I didn't report it to the official is, my mother and my second brother probably did this. Since I started studying in May, I haven't asked for leave yet. I haven't been in a good state lately and I always feel tired. Moreover, the author has a handicap and his typing speed is very slow. He faces the computer every day. Recently, he has suffered from severe pain in his cervical spine and is dizzy. Originally I wanted to save some manuscripts and update them later, but I was never able to save them and I couldn't update them. I'm really sorry. This month's subscription is not ideal, which makes me a little frustrated. Fortunately, there are still many book friends who silently accompany me like good friends and still insist on subscribing, voting and commenting on this book. Your simple recognition is a great encouragement to me. I really want to thank you all. Without your support, the author might not have been able to continue. I made a fortune by raiding houses in ancient times." Author, Half-Life Calligraphy. Chapter 235. Chapter 235. It's hard to guard against domestic thieves? Cao Hongzhen originally didn't want to talk about his family's affairs to the outside world. After all, the family scandal should not be made public. But the emperor always wanted Xuanyujin to be the national counselor, but he was always rejected. Everyone in the world knows that those capable Taoist priests and masters have good tempers. He was worried that if he concealed something, if Ling Chu was not satisfied and rejected him, then he really didn't know what to do. His wife was so angry that she almost divorced him because of his daughter's betrothal gift. Cao Hongzhen hoped that Ling Chu could help him solve this matter and did not hide it. The Cao family has two sons. Cao Hongzhen is the eldest son, and he also has a younger brother. Cao Hongzhen has been sensible since he was a child. He knew how to study hard and work hard at a young age. But his second brother Cao Hongden was just the opposite. He was doted on by his mother since he was a child. He was neither good at literature nor martial arts. When he grew up, he was idle. Although the Cao family is not considered rich and powerful, it can still be considered as more than above or below, but it is a pity that the small amount of family property cannot withstand Cao Hongden's lavish spending. After the two Cao brothers got married and each gave birth to a child, their life became worse day by day. Although Cao Hongzhen is the commander of the Zikan Army and Horses Division, he is only in the 6th rank and his salary is not much. Cao Hongden was not good at studying and did not want to pursue an official career. In order not to live in vain, the family asked him to start a small business. However, Cao Hongden has been lazy since he was a child. After getting married, he spent 3 days fishing and 2 days drying nets in business. The little money he earned was not enough for himself. Cao's father and Cao's mother doted on their youngest son. Seeing that he was not doing well, they often asked Cao Hongzhen and his wife to subsidize a second house, either openly or secretly. Although the couple was dissatisfied, they could not withstand Cao's mother's cry and begging. Cao Hongzhen's eldest daughter got engaged a few days ago. The couple did not want to wrong their daughter. In addition to the dowry prepared for her, they also planned to give her all the betrothal gifts given by the man as dowry. Originally, those things were stored in the warehouse. However, a few days ago, Cao Hongzhen's wife discovered that most of those things were missing, and a small part had been replaced. Cao Hongzhen and his wife originally thought that there was a thief in the house, but what surprised them was that except for the things they were preparing for their daughter to get married, everything else in the house was in good condition and nothing was missing. They originally wanted to report to the government, but CAO's father, CAO's mother, and CAO Hongdan's wife strongly opposed it, saying that it was a family scandal that should not be made public. Moreover, everyone advised CAO Hongzin and his wife to settle the matter to avoid spreading the news and affecting their daughter's marriage. After careful consideration, CAO Hongzin and his wife launched an investigation secretly, although they did not report the matter to the official. What they didn't expect was that after the final investigation, they found that CAO Hongdeng and his wife were very suspicious. CAO Hongzin's wife, Mrs. Zhang, even discovered that the gold hairpin on her grand-in-law's head was exactly the same as the gold hairpin in her daughter's betrothal gift. Angry Mrs. Zhang went to her sister-in-law to ask for an explanation. However, the second wife and her husband did not admit that they had stolen anything from their niece. Ms. Zhang was even scolded by her mother-in-law. After Cao Hongzin learned about it, he went to his second brother to get his daughter's things back. However, Cao Hongden was protected by Cao's father and Cao's mother. The result can be imagined. Cao Hongzin, like Zhang, returned without success. Even though Cao Hongzin was angry, he couldn't hit anyone because they were a family. Since it was clear that the begging was unsuccessful, he originally thought that as long as he found the things secretly and took them back, he would forget about it. Unexpectedly, he tried his best to find where his daughter's bride price was hidden. If the things don't come back, his daughter will cry all day long and his wife will even want to divorce him. Cao Hongzin has been miserable recently and has really no choice, so he is so eager to ask Ling Chu for help. After hearing this, Ling Chu was really speechless. It turned out that the person who stole the things was a domestic thief. No wonder Commander Cao did not report it to the official. Let's go to your house first. Cao Hongzin was overjoyed when he saw that she did not refuse. He took Ling Chu straight back home. Cao Hongzin's wife was very happy to see Ling Chu and fully expected her to find her daughter's betrothal gift. But Cao's father, Cao's mother, and the second wife's wife looked unhappy. Mother Cao even shouted angrily at her eldest son with a stern face, "Xiner, how can you let outsiders know about your family affairs? If this matter spreads out, aren't you afraid that Sister Xin's marriage will have troubles?" Ms. Zhang had long been dissatisfied with her mother-in-law's behavior of protecting her second wife. When she heard her words, she said nothing with a sullen face. Cao Hongzin knew that his wife was angry, but in fact he was not satisfied with his parents' favoritism. "Mom, if I can't find the bride price, how do you want Sister Xin to get married?" Mother Cao frowned, "Why can't we get married? Don't we still have some of those things? It's not enough. There are still some porcelain and cloth in the warehouse. How can you and your wife make up $28 if you add some private rooms, lifted?" Cao Hongden's wife Yao also said, "Brothers and sisters-in-law, we are not those rich and distinguished families, and the dowry and betrothal gifts cannot be compared with others. There is no need for you to spend all your money to give Sister Xin a dowry. Don't forget that you still have a son, you have to leave something for him." Ms. Zhang was so angry that her mother-in-law and sister-in-law said something that made her liver hurt. Cao Hongzin was also very angry, "Mom, the porcelain and cloth in the warehouse are old and old, how can they be used as dowry for Sister Xin?" Before she could finish her words, Cao's mother interrupted her disapprovingly, "Why can't it be used as a dowry? Although those things are a bit old, they are not broken or broken. They are all good things." Ms. Zhang sneered, "What a good thing, it's just something that can be seen everywhere on the street." Cao Hongzin looked helpless, "Mom, there is a list of dowry gifts given by the Wu family. You ask Sister Xin to bring the things in the warehouse to get married. If the Wu family knew about it, How could you ask Sister Xian to marry her in Wu's home? Can you raise your head? As soon as Cao Hongzin finished speaking, his mother and Yao said almost in unison, just ask Sister Xian to cover it up carefully and don't let the Wu family know. How could such a thing be concealed? Mrs. Zhang knew the temperament of her mother-in-law and sister-in-law very well, and knew that she would not be able to explain it to them no matter what. She only glared at her husband angrily. If she hadn't been worried about his face, she would have reported herself to the government. Cao Hongzin was angry and helpless. Mother. After listening to this for a while, Ling Chu had a general understanding of Cao's mother and Yao's character. Even if Cao Hongzin argued with them for 3 days and 3 nights, nothing would come of it. She couldn't help but interrupted him. Mr. Cao, are you still looking for something? Before Cao Hongzin could speak, Cao's mother glared at Ling Chu coldly and said with a worried expression, what are you looking for? The thing has been stolen by thieves a long time ago. Where can I find it? Zhang did not speak, but stared at Cao Hongzin coldly. Cao Hongzin smiled bitterly in his heart. He knew that if he could not get back his daughter's betrothal gift, his wife would definitely divorce him. Although he is filial, he does not want to be a foolish filial person. If he only cares about everyone, his family will definitely be separated. Miss Ling, if you can help me, please find the things. Thanks to book friends Schweer, Sixian Psyche, Meng Monica, Erciu, 202029231722477012, 202003131920544726, Jiangnan Fueo, Sans Hongyushi, People's Hearts Are Too Crowded and other book friends for their monthly ticket support. Thanks to 20231212702243, neither cat nor mouse can play, 20170318191430835835, UN1, can't think of the bright, fallen leaves no autumn. Ad, Yangliuan, Schweer, Colorful Life, China Fuse, Why We Grow Old, Pen Yongfang, Chen Rong, 854-729, KC 192, CHLWCH. 140212184021428, Taurus That Walks Freely, Prose. BA, Tianyu Lan, Tibi Genfu, Chi Ziao, Sankai. DB, 20220911255189, 202303061958333531, The Sage is also idle, the love affair has passed away, the child who dislikes social trouble, Wu Nan's mother. Chen, Xiaoqiu, 2023-032-1629. CE. 20230601621658 ***************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************** Thanks to Hungzio and Xiaoxiang for supporting book friends. Thank you again for your strong support. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I made a fortune by raiding houses in ancient times. Author, Half-Life Calligraphy. Chapter 236. Chapter 236 Shameless. Ouch, brother and sister-in-law, the things have been stolen a long time ago, how can we still find them, you guys? It's better not to waste so much effort. Instead of wasting time, it's better to think of more ways to buy some dowry for Sister Xin. Hearing what her sister-in-law said, Mrs. Jiang's face turned ugly. She was really worried that those things were gone. After all, both the married couple spend money lavishly. Ling Chu saw Jiang's worry and couldn't help but comfort her. Don't worry, everything is still there. Jiang's eyes lit up instantly. Yao was stunned for a moment, then curled his lips disdainfully. They thought to themselves that even if they guessed that those things were still there, They couldn't find them anyway. With a cold, wrinkled face, Mother Cao glanced at Ling Chu up and down suspiciously. Ling Chu ignored them, but took out the copper coins and turtle shells and pretended to make a fortune. "Miss Ling, have you found it?" Mrs. Zhang couldn't wait to ask. Although Cao Hongzin said nothing, his eyes were full of hope. Ling Chu nodded, put away the copper coins and turtle shells, and walked away. When Mother Cao saw Ling Chu walking into the inner house without saying anything, she frowned and shouted angrily at her, "Do you know the rules? How can you, an outsider, just break in without the master's consent?" Cao Hongzin was afraid that his mother would offend Ling Chu. "Mom, I invited Miss Ling. She can go wherever she wants." Ling Chu ignored Mother Cao's obstruction and walked quickly forward following the system's guidance. Ms. Zhang didn't want to pay attention to her mother-in-law, so she turned around and caught up with Ling Chu. Although Yao didn't believe they could find anything, he hesitated for a while and followed them. Cao Hongzin gave his mother a few words of advice, then turned and left. Seeing that everyone was gone, Cao's mother could only look dark, hold the maid's hand and follow them in a hurry. Ling Chu followed the system's guidance and didn't stop until he reached the west wing. "Miss Ling, does the hexagram indicate that something is inside?" Mrs. Zhang looked at the locked door in front of her, with unbearable anger in her eyes. Ling Chu nodded, "That's right." Yao family hurriedly followed, but he didn't expect that Ling Chu would go straight to the courtyard where their second room lived. "Oh, brother, where did you invite this liar? How could Sister Xian's things be in my yard? Isn't this nonsense?" Cao Hongzin scolded with a dark face. "Brother and sister, what are you talking about? Miss Ling is not a liar." Ms. Zhang held back her anger and said, "Sister-in-law, please open the lock and see if the things are inside. You will know after you go in and take a look." Yao didn't open the lock, but said to Cao's mother with an aggrieved look on her face, "Mom, sister-in-law means that our second room has stolen my niece's things. If this spreads out, how can my husband have the dignity to go out to meet people?" Cao's mother always felt sorry for her youngest son, and her expression dropped when she heard this. "Xiner, you are still the commander of the 5 cities army and horses division, so you are so confused. How could the things stolen by the thief be in your second brother's possessions, in the yard?" Seeing Cao's mother scolding her happily, Ling Chu didn't say anything and just took out a small hammer and hit the big lock lightly. Before Mother Cao could finish her words, she was interrupted by the sound of metal hitting. While they were still wondering, Ling Chu calmly took back the hammer, reached out and pushed the door, and then walked in. Ms. Zhang immediately came to her senses and followed quickly. Yao was so anxious that he jumped behind him. He ran over in a few steps and wanted to stop him, but Ling Chu skillfully avoided him. Amidst the commotion, a man wearing a straight bluestone suit walked out of the room sleepily. When he saw the people in the courtyard, he frowned dissatisfied. "What are you making a noise about? It's making people uncomfortable." As soon as Mrs. Yao saw him, she immediately said in a weird manner, "Husband, don't you know? My eldest brother hired someone to find Sister Xian's betrothal gift, saying that it is in our yard." When Cao Hongdeng heard his wife's words, his face was full of anger. "Brother, what do you mean? Are you suspecting that I stole my niece's things?" Before Cao Hongzing could speak, Cao's mother took the first step and said, "What are you stealing? A family can't talk like this." He turned to his eldest son and said, "Xiner, if you are looking for something, I won't stop you. It's just that the thing is not here with your second brother." Ling Chu couldn't bear to hear this and went straight to Yao's bedroom. Yao became anxious immediately and rushed over to stop her. Cao Hongden was even more furious and rushed over quickly and reached out to grab Ling Chu's arm. Seeing her skin as white as snow, a colored light flashed in her eyes. Ling Chu walked in without looking back, but summoned the big shovel and slapped it directly towards Cao Hongden's dirty hand. After a cry of pain, Cao Hongdan retracted his hand. The shovel did not pursue him any further, but he stopped the second wife and her husband. When Mrs. Zhang saw Ling Chu entering the bedroom, she glanced coldly at Mr. and Mrs. Cao Hongdan, then turned around and walked in. Mother. Cao Hongdan had no choice but to wink at Cao's mother. Cao's mother immediately followed. In the bedroom, Ling Chu was asking Cao Hongzin, Master Cao, do you mind if I smash the wall? Aren't you looking for a dowry gift? Why are you suddenly breaking down the wall? Cao Hongzin was confused and couldn't figure out what Ling Chu meant by what he said. What kind of wall did you smash? Can you afford to pay for it? Mother Cao glared at Ling Chu fiercely and wanted to reach over and push her out. Ms. Zhang had had enough of her mother-in-law's favoritism, and strode in front of Ling Chu. Miss Ling, feel free to smash it. If it's damaged, I'll pay for it. Ling Chu glanced at Cao Hongzin and saw that he had no objection. With a wave of his hand, the small hammer immediately hit the wall next to the bed. After the loud noise, a large piece of the wall collapsed, revealing a black box. Mother Cao was so angry that she tried to it away, but Ling Chu got it first. The box opened, and the golden light shone brightly. Ms. Zhang recognized at a glance that this was the name given to her daughter's betrothal gift. Mom, didn't you say that my second brother didn't steal Sister Xian's things? Then tell me, what is this? Mother Cao's eyes dodged for a moment, and then she shouted angrily with her hands on her hips, what are you stealing? I gave it to my second son for safekeeping. If the married daughter throws water, Sister Xian will be a member of the Wu family when she gets married. I can't let you give all your property to the Wu family. This is something I specially reserved for Brother Zhuang. You cannot take it away. Ms. Zhang was so angry at her mother-in-law's nonsense. It was obviously her second wife who stole her daughter's things, but she still said it was for her son. It was really shameless. Boom. Ling Chu ignored the quarrel between Cao's mother-in-law and daughter-in-law, squatted in front of the canopy bed with a small hammer, and smashed the wooden board under the bed. Mother Cao heard the noise and turned around to see the scene. She was so angry that she grabbed the teacup next to her and tried to throw it at Ling Chu. Cao Hongzin was startled and quickly stepped forward to stop her mother. Cao Hongdeng and his wife outside heard the noise in the house and were extremely anxious, but they could not break free from the obstruction of the shovel. Seeing that her mother-in-law was being stopped by her husband, Mrs. Zhang quickly called some maids and women to move Yao's bed away. Ling Chu smashed a large wooden box out from under the bed. The contents inside were the lost betrothal gifts. Ling Chu took out a small box from the big box and opened it. Inside were several crumpled usury notes. A brow pencil has been very popular recently. Today I was curious to check out the price and introduction. Then I took a look at the pitiful royalties. The result is, I won't say anything anymore, I'll just try my best to code. End of this chapter. I made a fortune by raiding houses in ancient times. Author, Half-Life Calligraphy. Chapter 237. Seeing the gold, silver, jades, silks and satins in the big box, Ms. Zhang was both happy and angry. Happily, she had found all her daughter's betrothal gifts, and her daughter's marriage was not delayed. The angry couple were the thieves, who were shameless and greedy, and even stole everything belonging to the niece. Her mother-in-law's favoritism also chilled her. Knowing that her youngest son and his wife were stealing her daughter's things, not only did she not stop them, but they actually helped them. Seeing that all those things were found, Mother Cao wanted to scratch Ling Chu's face all over. Seeing Mrs. Zhang ordering the maid and mother-in-law to carry away the betrothal gift, I felt heartbroken. Hands firmly held Cao Hongzin's arm, nagging him to keep the things. Cao Hongzin was so quarreled by his mother that his head hurt, and he was angry and helpless. His mother persuaded him to leave his daughter's bride price for his son to marry in the future. But Cao Hongzin knew that his mother actually wanted to wait for him to leave the things behind, and then find a way to use them to supplement the second house. Ling Chu glanced at Cao's mother, who was still chattering, and handed the thing in her hand to Cao Hongzin. "Mr. Cao, take a look at this." Cao Hongzin was a little confused and didn't know what Ling Chu asked him to see. Seeing her serious expression, she hurriedly broke away from his mother's pull, quickly stepped forward and reached out to take the piece of paper. As soon as his eyes touched the words on the paper, Cao Hongzin's expression changed. The further he looked down, the uglier Cao Hongzin's face became. Mother Cao didn't know what he was looking at, and she wanted to persuade the eldest son not to give everything to his daughter as a dowry. Cao Hongzin didn't care about the dowry at the moment, and asked Cao's mother with a dark face, "Mom, is my second brother crazy? He actually borrowed usury money." Mother Cao was confused. "What usury money?" Cao Hongzin was so angry that he threw the IOU in his hand in front of his mother. Mother Cao lowered her head and saw the amount of money on it. Her eyes went dark. She didn't know that her youngest son had actually borrowed usury money. No matter how much she doted on him, she knew that he couldn't touch it. Compounding profits can bankrupt their family. Mother Cao no longer cared about her granddaughter's betrothal gift. She took the IOU and ran outside to question her youngest son. Cao Hongzin endured his anger and followed him. Originally, only his wife Yao knew about Cao Hongzin's usury loan. Facing the questioning from Cao's mother and Cao Hongzin, Cao Hongdeng was panicked at first, but then he felt happy. The reason why he stole his niece's betrothal gift was to sell it so that he could use it to pay back the loan sharks. Originally, this was done secretly, but the family members discovered what happened, and they just asked everyone to help him pay off his debts. Cao Hongdeng cried to his mother, saying that the reason why he borrowed usury money was because his family could not make ends meet and he couldn't bear it. Thinking about borrowing money to expand the business and make money so that his parents can be happy. Cao Hongdeng has been sweet-tongued since he was a child, and now his eloquent tongue coaxed Cao's mother out of her anger, and she felt that his filial piety was rare. Seeing that her mother-in-law was no longer angry, Ms. Yao secretly made a dark move towards her husband. Cao Hongdeng immediately wiped his tears and began to cry about poverty, saying that he had no money and could not pay the usury. Seeing him crying so sadly, Cao's mother immediately felt heartbroken. Without thinking, he said to Cao Hongdeng, "Xiner, although your second brother is wrong to borrow usury, he is also very filial. Now that your second brother is in trouble, you can't just stand by and watch. You are brothers." The more Cao Hongzin listened, the colder his heart became. His mother was so partial. "Mom, I am only a sixth-grade official. My salary is not enough to support my family. My second brother has borrowed so much money. How do you ask me to help him pay it back? Why don't you have money? There are so many betrothal gifts. You can sell them first." Mother Cao, she subconsciously blurted out, but when she saw her eldest son staring at her in disbelief, she couldn't help but stop. Ms. Zhang sneered in her heart when she heard her mother-in-law's words. She was too lazy to say another word. She just glared at her husband coldly, and then asked the maid and mother-in-law to carry away her daughter's betrothal gift box. Ms. Zhang had already thought in her mind that when her daughter got married, she would take her children and leave back to her parents' home. Having been married for many years, Cao Hongzin could tell what his wife was thinking at just one glance. At this moment, he was angry and helpless. His wife is about to divorce him, but it's as if his mother can't see it and is still insisting on him to help his second brother repay the huge usury money. Ling Chu glanced at Cao Hongzin, who was filled with suppressed anger, and then his thoughts changed. "Master Cao, can you take a step to speak?" Cao Hongzin was already very angry with his mother, but Ling Chu's words just gave him a chance. He said a few perfunctory words to his mother, took the opportunity to break free of his arms, and led Ling Chu away. Mother Cao and Cao Hongdeng frowned and looked at their backs. Although they were curious about what they were going to say, they did not dare to follow them. We can't anger Cao Hongzin and expect him to help us repay the usury. Miss Ling, thank you for your help. Cao Hongzin was truly grateful to Ling Chu. Fortunately, she found the betrothal gift, otherwise his daughter's marriage would have been ruined. You don't have to be polite, Mr. Cao. I'll tell you the truth. I have something to ask of you. I would like to borrow Mr. Cao's usury note for use. Cao Hongzin looked puzzled. This was the first time he heard someone wanted to borrow this thing. Ling Chu knew that he was curious, but she couldn't elaborate. Master Cao, I can't tell you the details. But, if you are lucky, maybe I can help you avoid the high interest. Even if not, the IOU will be returned to you intact. Cao Hongzin's eyes widened suspiciously. Ms. Ling wants to help them get rid of the high interest rate, and is there such a great thing? Cao Hongzin's mind started working quickly. If someone else said this, he might not believe it, but Miss Ling is a disciple of Master Xianyi, so maybe there is something we can do. Cao Hongzin only hesitated for a while before agreeing. Although I didn't believe that Ling Chu could really help them avoid the high interest rate, I was thinking about what might happen. As long as there is a 1 in 10,000 chance, he would like to try. Knowing that Ling Chu would not elaborate, Cao Hongzin did not ask further. After getting the IOU from his mother, he gave it to her while sending Ling Chu out. Cao's mother and Cao Hongdeng were so happy that they couldn't help but see Cao Hongzin asking for the IOU, so they thought he had finally agreed to help pay back the money. After leaving Cao mansion, Ling Chu returned to his house on Kintai Street and took out the IOU from Zhou Bankin's family to compare. The writing on the note is exactly the same as the name of the lender. Zhou Bankin's father and Cao Hongdeng both borrowed usury money from the Duke of Zhao. Although the lender above is the nanny next to Mrs. Zhao Qiagong, the person behind it is definitely Mrs. Zhao Qiagong. Tomorrow she will take these two ES and go to Mr. Guo to get the concubinage document back. The person who poured oil and set fire last night was not caught. Seeing that it was getting dark, Ling Chu arranged for the maid to patrol at night, but he still felt uneasy after thinking about it. Before going to sleep, I simply summoned the big shovel and the small hammer. Originally it was just in case. But she woke up suddenly and inexplicably at night, and suddenly felt a little uneasy. After thinking about it, Ling Chu decided to open the system and check it out. Unexpectedly, as soon as the system was turned on, a black shadow jumped from outside onto the wall of the east wing. End of this chapter. I made a fortune by raiding houses in ancient times. Author, Half-Life Calligraphy. Chapter 238. The two secret guards hiding in the dark saw the black shadow jumping up the wall and immediately used their light skills to fly towards it. Just not waiting for them to fly. Suddenly, he saw a big shovel appear quietly from behind the man in black and slap him the back. The man in black, who was secretly observing the situation in the courtyard, was caught off guard and fell down. The two secret guards stopped midway, looked at each other, and did not come forward again. Instead, he hid in a big tree nearby and watched the changes. Ling Chu glanced at the two people hiding in the tree in the system, and then turned to the black figure on the ground. The black figure just got up from the ground and looked around in confusion. Before he could see clearly who shot him down, he heard the sound of rapid footsteps approaching from far away. Xiaolu secretly thought that something was wrong. The noise he made when he fell down just now must have alerted people. It seems that the flowers will not be harvested tonight. Xiaolu jumped up, turned around and wanted to leave. Unexpectedly, before he could fly up the wall, a big shovel suddenly appeared and pressed down his head. Xiaolu made a splash and fell back to the ground. Hearing the footsteps getting closer and closer, Xiaolu couldn't think about how a big shovel could knock him down. As soon as I got up, I wanted to climb up the wall again. Just when his hands touched the wall, the shovel struck hard at his hands. Xiaolu shivered and subconsciously shrank his hands. Plop! Smashed back to the ground for the third time. Xiaolu bit his teeth and the carp stood upright. Hush and rushed towards the wall again. However, the strange thing is that no matter how fast he is, all of them are blocked by the big shovel without exception. Unable to climb up the wall, Xiaolu chuckled lowly and simply turned around and rushed towards the inner courtyard. Even if he cannot pick this flower today, as long as he is seen in the girl's boudoir, his mission today will not be considered a failure. With her reputation ruined, this girl is finished. Although he couldn't taste the taste, he had collected all the bank notes, so it was not a loss. Xiaolu was full of confidence and rushed towards the inner courtyard. When the two people hiding in the tree saw this scene, instead of stopping them, they laughed happily. This man doesn't want to offend anyone, but he offends Miss Ling. Just wait to be beaten. The women who were watching the night had just rushed into the yard when they saw a black shadow rushing towards the main house. Before they could say anything to stop him, they saw a large shovel rushing towards the black shadow. Hit him flying with lightning speed. Xiaolu fell to the ground, opened his mouth and spurted out a mouthful of blood. The women who rushed over surrounded him. Although they did not take action, they pointed at him with the sticks in their hands. Xiaolu felt anxious. He endured the pain and just got up when he heard the creak of the wooden door. Look forward subconsciously. The door of the main room was opened, two maids stood on both sides holding lanterns, and a girl with long hair slowly stepped out. Xiaolu's eyes flashed with surprise. Then it was a pity that if he had known that this girl was so beautiful, he would have been more careful just now so that no one would notice her. Even though he was already captured, Xiaolu couldn't hold back and looked at the person in front of him with a squinting look. Ling Chu frowned and said coldly to the women who were watching the night, "What are you doing standing still? The thieves have already broken in before you saw it, so why don't you take action quickly?" Mother Gong, who was the one who started the conversation, responded with a yes and immediately waved her hand to the people around her. Hit. Xiaolu recovered from his lustful thoughts and his expression changed. Seeing the women surrounding them with sticks, he was about to break through the siege and rush out, but suddenly there was a sharp pain in his leg. Before he could react, his knee hit the ground. Followed by those sticks, they rained down on him quickly. Ling Chu stood quietly by the door, watching the man in black holding his head and screaming. Seeing her watching from the side, the women used all their strength to beat her with the sticks in their hands. The more the beating, the louder the scream. Ling Chu didn't shout to stop, no one dared to stop. The arms of the women were weak, and then they heard a clear stop. Ling Chu walked down the steps without looking at the man in black with a bruised nose and swollen face. Instead, he stood in the yard and looked up at the big tree with three people hugging each other. "Are you going to come down by yourself, or do you want me to do it?" The people present all stared at the big tree. Even Xiaolu, who had a bruised nose and face, couldn't help but be surprised. Why didn't he notice that there was someone in the big tree? The two secret guards in the tree looked at each other in surprise. They were discovered? When Ling Chu saw that there was no movement in the tree, his face turned cold. He waved his hand and immediately rushed upward with a shovel and a small hammer. "No, no, no, let's get down." The two secret guards were startled and jumped down from the tree. The big shovel and the small hammer rushed forward, hanging in front of them with eager eyes. The two secret guards did not dare to act rashly. Even though they have great martial arts skills, the shovels and hammers are really weird, and they don't want to get beaten up. Ling Chu looked around and found that he didn't know these two people. "Who are you?" "Miss Ling, there is not much peace in the city recently, and the Jinyaiwei is tracking down the criminals who set the fire. We happened to find someone entering your house, so we came to check. It was not an intentional intrusion. Please forgive me. So, these two are actually Ning Chui's people? Ling Chu was suspicious and felt that what this person said was a bit of a coincidence. Do you have ID tags? The two of them smiled bitterly. They were secret guards and could not carry this thing with them. Ling Chu frowned slightly. The identity of these two people was unknown, which was really a bit embarrassing. Let's give him a good beating, and she's afraid that if it's really Jin Yaiwei, she won't be at ease if she just lets them leave like this. After hesitating for a while, Ling Chu turned back, took a small piece of paper and wrote 2 words on it. After drying the ink, he folded it and pasted it on the small hammer before waving it away. Ningguo Gongfu. Ning Chui is sleeping on the big sandalwood bed. Suddenly there was a soft sound by the window. Ning Chui suddenly opened her eyes and just turned over to sit up. I saw a small hammer flying in front of my eyes. He was stunned for a moment, saw the note on the hammer, and subconsciously reached out to take it. Open. There is no beginning or end on the paper, only 2 words, come quickly. Ning Chui frowned and looked up at the small hammer that seemed to be waiting in the air. He rolled over to the ground, quickly put on his boots, dressed, picked up his sword, and left through the window in a flash. Yin Sha in the darkness immediately flew after him. Wei Feng, who was a step slower, chased and looked forward with wide eyes. He just seemed to have seen the master chasing Miss Ling's little hammer. In the yard, Xiaolu felt more and more uneasy. He did not expect that the 2 people were actually Jin Yaiwei. It is rumored that the commander of the Jin Yaiwei is a murderer without blinking an eye. He must leave as soon as possible, otherwise he will fall into his hands and die. Seeing the girl enter the house and the shovel staring at the 2 men, Xiaolu immediately rushed to the courtyard wall. The 2 secret guards had been on guard against him for a long time, and one of them kicked him back with a flying kick. The other raised his foot and stepped on his chest. Xiaolu screamed and subconsciously tried to open his legs with his hands. During the movement, the sleeves on his hands slipped off, revealing a flower and butterfly pattern on the inside of his wrist. The secret guard's face changed. Are you a flower picker? End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I made a fortune by raiding houses in ancient times. Author, Half-Life Calligraphy. Chapter 239. Chapter 239 Destroy him. Hearing the secret guard's words, Xiaolu subconsciously pulled up his sleeves to cover the butterfly. However, his action undoubtedly means that there is no 300 taels of silver in this place. Ling Chu's face turned cold as he just came out of the inner room. He walked up to the man who was stepping on the thief in black. Do you know this man? The secret guard was looking down at the man at his feet. Hearing this, he raised his head and glanced at Ling Chu. But before he could speak, the black-clothed thief started struggling desperately. The secret guard next to him was worried that the thief would hurt Ling Chu, so he hurriedly came over. Xiaolu was worried. Although his Qinggong was good, his martial arts was only average. In addition, he was injured by the weird shovel and kicked by the man just now, which made his injuries even worse. No matter how hard he tried, he still couldn't break free. 2 secret guards, one stepped on the thief, while the other squatted down and reached out to grab his right hand. Xiaolu wanted to struggle, but the secret guard's hands were like iron pliers, and he couldn't move at all. The secret guard ignored the thief's struggle and rolled up his sleeves. On the inside of the wrist, a butterfly suddenly appeared. At this moment, the 2 secret guards suddenly raised their heads and looked toward the roof warily. Noticing their movements, Ling Chu also turned his head. I happened to see Ning Chui jump off the roof of her house, followed by Wei Feng and Yin Shat. The two secret guards looked surprised, wondering why Ning Chui came over suddenly in the middle of the night. Ling Chu calmly took back the small hammer he used to deliver the message. Ning Chui strode over and glanced at Ling Chu up and down. Seeing that she was fine, she felt relieved. He walked up to the secret guard and looked down at the man in black at his feet. His eyes fell on the butterfly on his wrist, and the atmosphere around him dropped rapidly in an instant. The words he asked were as cold as a millennium of ice. "Are you Xiaolu?" Xiaolu pursed her lips tightly. Although she didn't speak, her heart kept sinking. Ling Chu didn't expect Ning Chui to recognize this person as soon as he arrived. Does he have a good background? Looking at his appearance, he just looks like a popular face, nothing outstanding about him. Ning Chui said in a deep voice, "In the early years, there were more than a dozen cases. Several girls were inexplicably defiled in their boudoir at night. Some of them sought death after waking up because they could not bear the humiliation. The family tried every possible means to trace the person behind it, but found nothing, so they could only report it to the government. But there are rumors that some girls were defiled, but instead of blaming the person who did it, they started quarreling with their families to marry him. The government conducted many investigations and found out that the man was named Xiaolu and that there was a butterfly on the inside of his wrist, but they never caught him." Ling Chu couldn't help but be surprised. In ancient times, women always paid attention to their reputation. After being defiled by a flower picker, they actually made trouble to marry him. Wei Feng looked at the man at the foot of the secret guard with a look of disgust on his face. "Xiaolu, you are the famous flower picker in the world. With your appearance, how on earth did you let those girls who were ruined by you still marry you?" Seeing that the flower picker didn't say anything, Ning Chui suddenly reached out and pulled his face. After the human skin mask was taken off, a white face was revealed. This face is actually better looking than the previous piece of human skin. Those girls were defiled and still clamored to marry him. They must have taken a fancy to his skin. Facing this pretty face, Ling Chu didn't feel the slightest emotion in his heart. "Tell me, who made you break into my house in the middle of the night?" Ling Chu just moved to Kintai Street yesterday. Last night, the house was doused with kerosene and set on fire. Another flower picker came tonight. This was definitely someone's instigation. Xiaolu remained silent even though his face was ashen. He knew that if he kept his mouth shut, there might be a chance of survival, but once he revealed the person behind it, he would definitely die. "Don't tell." Seeing that he didn't speak, Ling Chu was not annoyed. He turned to Ning Chui and asked, "Master Ning, how does the Yamen sentence flower pickers?" Ning Chui glanced at her and said concisely, "Ling Chi." As soon as he finished speaking, Wei Feng didn't know if he was afraid that Ling Chu would be soft-hearted, so he followed up, "It's not a pity to die for Xiaolu, he has harmed more than a dozen Ruhua. A beautiful girl, most of the people he defiled ended up dead." Ling Chu didn't have the sympathy Wei Feng thought he had. He lowered his head expressionlessly and asked the flower picker, "How much money did the person behind this pay to bribe you?" Seeing that he still remained silent, Ling Chu asked Xiaji to search him. But before Xiaji could take action, Wei Feng took the first step. Xiaolu wanted to resist, but was suppressed by the secret guards. Soon, Wei Feng found 2 500-tael silver notes and a pipe of smoke. In addition to these two things, there is also a bottle of love potion. When Xiaolu was picking flowers, he would sometimes meet those fierce girls, and he would give them love potions before taking action. Ling Chu looked at him coldly. "Those girls were ruined by you at a young age and died unjustly. Since you fell into my hands today, I can't do nothing. Since Ling Chi is going to be sentenced, I will help them collect some interest first." Although Ling Chu didn't have a fierce look and his words could even be called gentle, for some reason, Xiaoliu's heart suddenly rang with alarm bells. Wei Feng and the others looked at Ling Chu with curiosity. wondering how she was going to collect interest from those ruined girls. Ling Chu ignored everyone's appraising looks and summoned the small hammer. He said softly, "Little hammer, destroy him." As soon as he finished speaking, the small hammer whizzed towards the lower body of the flower picker. Xiaoliu's pupils shrank. However, before he could react, the small hammer struck down with incomparable precision. In the quiet night, a miserable howl instantly echoed through the sky. Many people in their dreams were awakened by this scream. The veins on Ning Chui's forehead twitched. He didn't expect that what Ling Chu said about abolishing him was such a useless method. Wei Feng and the others saw with their own eyes that the flower-picking thief was crippled. They all clamped their legs together and felt chills in their hearts. Looking at Ling Chu's eyes, he was even more speechless. Who would have thought that such a weak-looking person would say the cruelest words in the calmest tone, and his attacks would be even more ruthless? Ling Chu saw the looks in Wei Feng's and others' eyes, but ignored them. She is not a good-tempered person to begin with. The people behind her have tried to destroy her again and again. How can she let her go and harm her own people? The flower picker had already passed out from the pain. Ling Chu directly asked Xiaoji to bring him a basin of water to wake him up. "Who is the person behind your back?" Even though the flower picker rolled up into a ball in pain, he still didn't speak and just stared at her with resentment. Ling Chu didn't expect him to confess, so he simply handed him over to Ning Chui. Seeing that Ning Chui was about to leave with his people, Ling Chu quickly stopped him and pointed at the two secret guards. "Master Ning, are these two your people?" Ning Chui nodded. "There has been a lot of peace in Kyoto recently, and the person who set the fire was not caught, so I asked them to come and guard the area to see if they can gain anything. Thanks to book friend Lazy Yanjiang for his monthly ticket support. Thanks to 202309074950021, Pros. BA, Free Walking Taurus, China Fuse, Falling Leaves Knowing Autumn. Add, 2023-032-1629. CE, A. Z, Penyong Fang, 201703181914308335, Neither cat nor mouse can play, Evening Primrose Sunbathing in Lucknow, UN1, Yanglia Bank, Exquisite Heart. AE, 854-729, Hangja Blowing Merchant, Panax Noto Ginseng. DB, The Wind of the Blue Planet, Jam Kitten, Cheesy 1, 1402121840214228, 202012011440429443, Picking Up the Future, Chen, Light Gauze Makeup, Why We Grow Old, Colorful Life, XXC, asterisk carat. Carat O carat asterisk, 20230907495021, Sister Jew, 202303061958333531 and other book friends recommendation votes. Thanks to Hungzio and Xiaoxiang for supporting book friends. End of this chapter. I made a fortune by raiding houses in ancient times. Author, Half-Life Calligraphy. Chapter 240. Ling Chu didn't expect that Ning Chui would let someone protect him secretly. "Your Majesty, I have intentions, but I have the means to protect myself. You should let them go back." The two secret guards felt that it was useless to stay, and Miss Ling did not need their protection at all. Just when they thought Ning Chui would take them away, they heard him say to Ling Chu, "It doesn't matter, you haven't hired any guards yet. They are idle anyway, so why not let them stay first? I'll be your bodyguard." Ling Chu hesitated for a moment and then agreed, "Then I won't be polite to you." She does want to hire some guards, but it's hard to find people who are good at martial arts and loyal. Ning Chui signaled Wei Feng to send the flower-picking thief to Dali Temple, and also told him, "Miss Ling captured Xiaolu, remember to take the silver reward and send it to her." The government offered a reward of 15,000 taels for catching the flower-picking thief. Originally, the reward offered by the government was not that much money. After the girls who were defiled by Xiaolu committed suicide, their families personally took the money to Dali Temple to ask for an increase in the amount of the reward in order to catch the flower picker as soon as possible. After hearing what Ning Chui said, Xiaolu was so angry that he vomited a mouthful of blood. When he came here this time, he failed to pick any flowers, was beaten half to death, and had his descendants disabled. What made him even more angry was that this was equivalent to him personally holding 16,000 taels and throwing himself into a trap in front of Miss Ling. Xiaolu was so angry that he couldn't help but suspect that the person who bribed him didn't have a grudge against Miss Ling, but against him. Wei Feng glanced at him sympathetically, then raised his knife and struck him unconscious. After carrying it, he went to Dali Temple to exchange for silver. Ning Chui also left with Yin Sha. The two guards were left looking at each other helplessly. Thinking of the hammer that had just hit the flower picker, they felt a chill in their lower bodies. Miss Ling is a cruel person, they must be careful not to offend her in the future. After everyone left, Ling Chu asked Mother Gong to take two guards to settle in the front yard, and ordered the others to continue patrolling at night. After everything was arranged, she went back to rest. The next day, in the palace. After the who held the seal announced his withdrawal from the court, the officials from the lower court walked out in twos and threes. The second prince walked a few steps outside, suddenly stopped sideways, and said to the official walking aside, "Mr. Zhao, I heard that the eldest son of your family plans to take the eldest daughter of the former Minister of Household Affairs as his concubine. Is this true?" Zhao Qiuagong didn't know why the second prince suddenly mentioned this matter in front of so many people. Everyone looked at him curiously. He could only say vaguely, "Well, Mrs. Dong did a favor to my wife a few years ago. She came to the door a few days ago and said that she couldn't bear the hardship of her eldest daughter following them, so she begged my wife to accept her for Kwanzaa. My wife is soft-hearted, and seeing her crying so sadly, I couldn't refuse." The second prince nodded, "I see, but, I heard that Miss Ling has been fostered in a Taoist temple since she was a child, so she has no rules and etiquette at all, and she often contradicts her parents and family members in the house. Because she was disobedient to discipline, she even set up a female household and moved to Kintai Street with her maid and wife." Seeing Duke Zhao's ugly face, the second prince was satisfied and said, "I also heard from the purchasing manager in the mansion that there were rumors on the street that someone saw a man entering Miss Ling's house last night. Moreover, according to people who saw it, the man looked very similar to Xiaolu, who was on the arrest warrant posted by the government." As soon as the second prince said these words, everyone's eyes changed when they looked at Zhao Qiuagong. Because the name Xiaolu is really special, many people still remember him as the flower picker. "Mr. Zhao Qiuagong, although your wife cannot say no to the Dong family, this matter, if you force the prince to accept that girl Ling, aren't you afraid of him making trouble?" Zhao Qiuagong's face was gloomy, and he kept thinking. The second prince deliberately humiliated him in front of so many people. Could it be that he had done something recently to make him unhappy, so he beat him in public? Ning Chui was walking behind, listening to the whispers of others, and said expressionlessly, "Second prince, it seems that the steward in your house needs to be investigated carefully." The second prince's face turned cold. "What do you mean, Master Ning?" "As far as I know, Xiaolu was beaten half to death by the guards and maids in Miss Ling's house before she climbed up the outer wall of Miss Ling's house, and was sent to Dali Temple overnight. At this moment, I'm afraid I'll even get the silver reward. If the second prince doesn't believe it, he can send someone to see if Xiaolu is in the prison of Dali Temple." I didn't expect that the second prince would know about what happened just last night so quickly. The screams of the flower picker last night were so loud that many people on Kintai Street must have been speculating about what happened to Miss Ling's house. Rather than letting everyone make random guesses, it would be better to directly reveal the truth of the matter. Seeing the second prince's face turned black, Ning Chui kindly added, There are many people who know about this matter. The person in charge of purchasing in your house actually dared to blatantly misrepresent the facts to you. It seems that there is nothing wrong with the usual deception, do less. The second prince should investigate this kind of slave and bully his master. Thank you, Lord Ning, for reminding me. The second prince pretended to be grateful and thanked him. He then said with a playful expression, I didn't expect Lord Ning to know so clearly about Miss Ling. It seems that he pays a lot of attention to her. Master Ning, I heard that Miss Ling is pretty. Could it be that you have taken a fancy to her? Master Ning is 88 years old this year. People of your age have already started a family and have several children. At your age, if you delay it any longer, Mr. and Mrs. Ningguo may be really worried. At the corner behind, the emperor was listening quietly with his hands behind his back. As soon as the second prince finished speaking, before Ning Chui could speak, the emperor immediately turned his head and winked at the in-charge who was following behind. The steward bowed and nodded, flicked the whisk in his hand, and walked quickly out of the corner. Seeing that the officials all looked back at me uneasily, the manager turned a blind eye to them all. He walked to Ning Chui respectfully, bowed his hands in greeting, and then said, Master Ning, the emperor has summoned me. Please come with me. Ning Chui frowned invisibly. Seeing that everyone was looking this way with curious faces, she could only lift her feet and walk back. The second prince looked at his back with a heavy gaze, clenched his fists, and then quickly unclenched them. What he just said was intentional, just to reach the emperor's ears. In this case, that will not be able to marry a helpful wife. If he robs the concubine of the prince of Zhao Qiagong, he will definitely offend Zhao Qiagong's mansion. This is also equivalent to ending the alliance between Ningguo Gongfu and Zhao Guo Gongfu. Imperial Study Room. The emperor looked at Ning Chui, who was neither humble nor arrogant, standing in front of him, and felt unspeakable in his heart. After asking a few questions about the Jinyi guard house, the emperor pretended to be unintentional and said, You like Ling Mao's eldest granddaughter, do you need me to help you get married? Ning Chui's face was expressionless. The emperor has misunderstood. I don't have a girl I like. I said, I will never marry for the rest of my life. Please vote. Please vote. Please vote.